Hi, everybody. I am Laurie with thewifeexpert.com, and I am so glad you're here today because I have another great guest who's going to share her story. So, some people were commenting recently that I'm not doing consistent, successful stories, and I'm not doing consistent this story or consistent this story. And I just want everybody to know the stories I bring on here are real. The people who are on here are real, and they have a story about marriage. What happens, what went right, what went wrong, and what they did. And yes, everyone knows I help people struggling in marriage. And if you need my help, please come to thewifeexpert.com or pass this recording or whatever you're listening to, even if it's on YouTube, pass it on to someone who might need help. Because sometimes even just hearing someone else's story gives you a tiny tidbit of going, oh, I didn't know I could do that. And then suddenly you have a solution to something that's going on in your life. And that's why we're here. So without further ado, let me bring on my little guest. Her name is Amie. We don't use last names on here because no one's promoting anything. We're promoting good life. And so all we need is your first name. Amie, hi. Say
Hi.
hello.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. I know we've had a few challenges getting you on here. So I'm so grateful. And the way you came to me was because someone heard about you, and I have the greatest clients on the planet who love what I do, and they're like, "You need to interview her." And I said, "Okay, let's go. Let's hear her story." So let's start at the beginning. Why don't you go ahead and give me a little bit about you and your husband and how you met and how you got together, and just lead me through, and I'll just ask questions as we go along. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I can start with my husband and I are high school sweethearts.
Yay.
Yeah. Met the first day of high school and been together ever since.
What year was that?
It was 1990.
Okay. Okay, so then what happened? Talk me through, so obviously things were great. How many kids do you have?
We have 4 daughters.
That's a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
Future. Okay, and then what happened? So when things started, things were obviously good until they weren't. And what year was that?
Things started turning like in 2013. 2011 to 2013 was really rough years for my husband. He had lost his grandfather and then lost his adopted grandparents. And he was basically bullied into a position at his job that he did not want. And I just had a monster from then on. Like 2013, he became a train engineer that he didn't want to become a train engineer. He wanted to stay a conductor. And ever since he had to go to be an engineer, he was a bear, a monster.
Why did he say yes to that? How do people bully an adult man these days?
Basically, they told him, you do this job or you don't have a job anymore. You get promoted to engineer, and that's that. With engineer, there's more responsibility. Obviously, you're driving a train.
Yeah.
And a lot of stress. It's very stressful. A lot of people don't seem to understand that with the railroad, it's a way of life for them. It's not.
Is it? Why?
It's not just a job. It's a way of life.
Why? What is it?
And say what?
So you just said a lot of people don't understand. And so let's take a moment to share with everybody. What does that mean? What is the way of life of a train engineer mean?
Well, he's on call 24/7. When he does get a call for the train, like if he's home, he drives an hour to the rail yard and he gets on a train. They'll be on a train from anywhere to 12 plus hours. 12 hours,
Wow.
They have to shut down the train. They have to.
Why?
And they just sit there till a relief crew comes.
You're joking. So they drive for
no.
12 hours
Oh,
and
no.
then they
Yeah,
just have to go, okay, we got to go on break, shut.
And that's
No
not even
way.
the bad part. That's not even the bad part. When they do get to their destination, a lot of times they're waiting 3-4 hours for a van to come pick them up to take them to the hotel. And they get...
Do they ever have robberies? Because the train's just sitting there? Do they ever have robberies because the train's just sitting there?
Yeah, they've had robberies. I'm trying to think when that was. I think it was 2014, Christmas of 2014. He was 2 days before Christmas heading home, and they told him to stop his train. And when he stopped his train, like the railroad police were everywhere, and they had, like, at the back of his train, obviously because he couldn't see anything, but at the back of his train they had open car doors, and everybody was ransacking everything in his train.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
but
That's a commitment.
they are, yeah, it's a very big commitment. And then he may stay in the hotel for another 24 hours until he gets a call to come back. And then he's got an hour drive home, and they only get like 10 hours rest in between each shift. Like, once he gets to the hotel, his 10 hours starts. And they, basically, he's on call after 10 hours of rest. And
So does it,
same rules
so
at
let's
home.
say, okay, I know that's not why this is not why we're talking about. I'm totally curious. So if he's on a train and they call him off and you got to shut the train down and go to a hotel for 10 hours, the train's just sitting there. If I'm someone who's got stuff on the train, I want my stuff. Does another crew come on and
No,
take the train?
they have a crew that comes out and replaces them.
And so how does your husband get home if he's 10 hours away from home or 20, whatever?
There's a van that will take them. There's a van that brings the crew out to the train wherever they may be stopped. Sometimes, if they're lucky enough to make it into the yard, they get off in the yard, and then they have to wait for a train to come in, or a van to come pick them up. But either way you look at it, they're waiting for a ride to the hotel.
Holy, do they get paid for all that?
Yeah, he does. He does. He gets
Okay.
paid for it. His initial trip is like a set rate, but then he gets paid hourly. Like, if he's, waiting for the van for X amount of hours, or waiting in the hotel for X amount of hours. It's,
Sounds like a
it's
nightmare.
not,
Okay, so you're
yeah, it is. It's a nightmare. And that was why he did not want to become an engineer. Well, he was always lucky enough to be in the yard, working as a conductor in the yard, and have a normal shift and have 2 days off a week. Another thing with engineers, they get 1 day off a week. And sometimes, okay, last Friday was his day off. And he didn't get home till Saturday morning. So his day off started Saturday when he got home. It's
wow.
unpredictable. You can't plan anything. Vacation. Don't even get me started about that. Like, he can like, put in for a vacation day, or a week of vacation, and at 11:59 they can call him right before his vacation starts at midnight.
I hope he gets paid handsomely for this.
He does. He does make
Okay.
very good money.
Okay, but still, what a pain. Hopefully he won't do it too
Yeah.
much longer. Okay, so take me back. So I can see how he didn't want to do this. And
He
this
didn't wanna
must have
do
been
this.
very frustrating because he didn't want to not have a job because he's got 4 daughters and you.
Mhm.
So what starts to happen that you see something wrong?
Well, when he came home from engineer training, he was a totally different person. He was just mean. And I thought at the time, he's fighting the job he didn't want. He was fighting sleep. Like, sleep is very unpredictable. And so I blamed everything on the job, blamed it on his sleep deprivation, blamed it on, anything but what the real problem was. And at the time, I don't think that was even the real problem.
What was the real problem?
Just, well, I think he was already into midlife crisis. I think I just didn't realize it or know. I didn't even know till 2 years after bomb drop that it was midlife crisis.
How'd you figure it out?
After he gave me a second bomb drop, and after second bomb drop, and it was a night that we were fighting, and I wanted him to leave because he kept threatening to leave, but yet he wanted, and he had told me he was going to go to his friend David's and live at David's. David lives in a really big old farmhouse that he's restoring. He said, I'm going to go live with David, but I have to wait for my room to get done. And I'm like, okay. So, and I knew David was restoring his house. And he had told me this for about 3 weeks prior to this fight. And so I called David and I said, is there anything I can do to help you get Brian's room ready? And David, there's no way David would ever lie to me. He's just as much my friend as he is my husband's. And my husband's known him since elementary school. But he said, honey, he goes, he hasn't asked to move here. When I asked him, I said, yeah. So I knew it right then and there, like, and I was just in tears. I just like hit the floor and I'm like, my God, he's never going to leave. Why is he doing this? Why is he threatening to leave and then not leaving? Why is he lying to me? Why? There's no sense in it, you know?
Yeah. You said there was a first bomb drop. I think I missed the memo on that one. What was the first one?
First bomb drop was November of 2016.
Okay.
Found out about an affair he was having.
Okay.
And at first, he was willing to just work on us and get rid of her, be done with the affair. And a couple days later, he wavered on that, came back and said no. And I was like, he goes, I can't give her up. I think I love her. And I was just like, okay. Like, I am a logical thinker. I'm not one to just be like, oh my God, you know. I was like, yeah. Okay, my train of thought was, okay, well, I've been in your life for 26 years. She's been here, what, a year and a half?
Who was she?
Huh?
Who was the girl?
Am I allowed to say names or?
Oh, well, you don't have to say her name, but like, who was she to him? Was she a coworker? Did she work in the yard?
She actually, I don't know how he knew her or if he knew her prior, but she was a associate of a gas station here in town. Okay. Like, she worked at a gas station.
Okay. Did she know he was married?
Yes, she knew he was married.
Did she know you?
We kind of know of each other. She her family was friends with my aunt and uncle and family when we were kids. Okay. But as far as like adults, no, we don't know, didn't.
But really she knew he was married, and so that's the part that just really gives me a hard pause, because if you're listening to this, you know we never touch a man who is married, and until he's walked away from his family and wife and kids, then you can touch him. And then I would question, why would you want to be with someone who left their wife and kids?
Right.
What?
Right.
What are you getting yourself into? Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Prior to this, like a year and a half, like they had been having this affair for a year and a half. Well, I'm not dumb. You know, I had asked him numerous times over that year and a half, are you cheating? And, you know, just tell me, like, you know, what's going on? And he always denied it. Oh, everything's fine. And every time I would accuse, Aime got gifts and Aime got trips, and Aime even got a new car at one point in time. Like, and then Aime felt like she was crazy and felt guilty for accusing him.
Why did you just switch to the third person?
Say what? Why did
you just switched to the third person. You're talking about Aime, and I was like, wait, who's Aime? And then I realized you're talking about yourself.
I'm talking about me.
Okay. You lost me for a second. I'm like, do you do that often? Sorry. I'm just kidding. I understand.
No. But so for me, bomb drop was a relief. Because I'm like, okay, this makes sense. You know, it's making sense. And I had him talked into going to counseling. So at the time when he told me, I think I love her and I can't give her up, I was like, well, okay, well, we're in counseling. I've been in your life for 26 years. She's been here a year and a half, 2 years maybe. We'll just get rid of her in counseling. So I told him, I said, well, she's been in my life for how long? And I didn't know about her. She didn't harm me. So why don't you just keep her? And, you know, oh, he loved that idea. Love that idea. Well, and then he was like, well, I'm going to ask her. Well, then when she didn't agree to it,
Wait, I'm so sorry. Hold on a second. He said he's going to ask his affair partner if it's okay if he goes to counseling with you. Was she invited?
No, if she would remain his mistress, basically. My train of thought was, because I had him talked into going to counseling.
Okay.
So we would go to counseling and get rid of her in our counseling sessions. But I made him think, well, he could keep her. You know what I mean? So that way he wasn't running away from counseling, and he wasn't running away from, or he was, you know, running away more from the divorce and everything.
What
So
did he tell her, though? I'm curious of what that conversation was with her. Oh, I'm going to go to counseling with my wife, but we're just going to stay together?
I have no clue. I don't know what their
Well, how do you
conversation
know
was.
she didn't like it?
Because he came back and he said, no, she said she no longer wants to be the dirty little secret. And I was like, "Pfft, too late for that. My God. But
So
so
what
she
happened?
didn't
She no
agree.
longer
She
wants to
didn't
be.
agree to stay his mistress
So she left him.
No, she didn't leave him. No, he stayed with her.
What?
So he stayed
Okay.
with
So
her.
he chose that way.
But we made it through three sessions of counseling, and the counselor said, I don't think your marriage can be saved. I just want to talk to Amie from now on. Which
Oh
Amie
my
was,
God. Okay, back up. Hold on. I got questions.
what?
So you are about to go to therapy. Your husband tells you that his girlfriend doesn't want to be the dirty little secret. She wants to be an existing person
She
in
wants to
dividing your
be
marriage.
A1 in his life. Yeah, get rid
Okay,
of
and
the
he
wife.
agrees to this,
And he agrees to it. Yeah. So
but yet he's
he's wanting to divorce me at this point.
but yet you're still going to counseling. Why?
Um, because I don't really know. Like, I look back and I'm like, why did I? Why did I? But he was nice to me at home. But when we got to counseling, he was cold and was like, nope, I just want a divorce. But then, yet we'd go back home and he'd act like everything was normal.
Was he
And,
still living at home?
yeah, he was living at home.
So he was living at home with you,
Yeah.
and his girlfriend knew he was living at home with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy. Okay.
It gets more crazier.
Okay, so wait, hold on. Let me make sure everyone understands, because people are like, why did you ask this? Why did you ask this? So I'm asking. So I think for everybody else. So in this moment, you're going to the therapist, and the therapist says what to you?
Says to us, I don't think your marriage can be saved. I no longer want to see you, to my husband. I just want to see Amie from now on. And
Because why?
she never gave a reason because Amie didn't let her give her a reason.
There's a third person.
Amie
Okay.
kindly said, as nice as she possibly could, told her, F off. I'm not the one that is crazy in this living with the, being
Amen,
married and
sister.
having an affair with this lady, and I'm not the crazy one. And I walked out of the this.
I'm so glad, because that's the part where most people, a lot of people would sit there and be like, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me. No, this is your husband, this is your family, something goofy's going on, and the therapist doesn't back you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But
You're so smart to have walked away.
I've often wondered, though, would she have led me on this path? Did she see, or would she have led me away from him? You know what I mean? Like, just get away from him.
Maybe she would have been like me, right?
Right.
Maybe she would have
That's what I
said,
meant.
here's what you're going to do. Okay.
Right. That's what I kind of wonder. But I didn't give it a chance. And I didn't know back then. I didn't know. I was just like, this is just crazy. Like, my life just kept getting crazier and crazier.
But she said the words, I don't think your marriage can be saved. And maybe she did say that to him, so he'd be like, okay, good, I'm out of here. Right. Humor him and then tell you, it can be saved. I just can't tell him that.
Right.
Because I believe one person can save a marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what happened?
Well, at Bomb Drop, I gathered this information because the one who told me about it was the mistress's ex-husband.
What do you mean?
Her ex-husband of about 4 years at that point in time.
Told you?
He came to me and told me. Guess why he told me?
Why?
This is how toxic and corrupt these people were, and I don't understand how my husband got involved with this at all.
Who are these people? Her and her husband?
Her and her husband.
Okay.
Her and her husband are divorced, but yet they still sleep together.
That's nice. So wait a second. You said, is this the first time you found out about it? Or is this?
Yeah, this is the first time.
Okay, so we're backing up to before all this therapy stuff, before you even knew about Horseface, which is the affair partner.
Right.
Okay, so you find out because her husband calls you.
Yeah. Her husband calls me, tells me, well, he didn't even use his name. If he would have used his name, I probably would have put two and two together, but I didn't realize who he was. He used a different name. And then once I started talking to him, I realized I'm like, okay, that's got to be him. Why is he?
Okay.
he was talking like in third person, like he was a coworker of her ex-husband and so forth. And then he did come clean with me when I figured out it was him. I was like, so why are you, but he did come clean, and he said that, he was just telling me all this stuff. Like when my husband would be on a train, he would be with her and so forth. And I'm like, okay, then why does she even have my husband? Why does she even want my husband? Or, what is going on? Like, why? And when I talked to my husband about it, I was like, and it gets more bizarre, so stay with me. I work with this guy's brother, who also has numerous affairs with coworkers of mine. So
Okay.
I know him. I know his mistress, that work in the same factory as me. I know of their affair. How my husband found out this information, I never was clear on that, and I'm not going to ask him. I'm not going to bring any of it up. But I guess they blackmailed each other. Him and my husband were blackmailing each other. Well, I'm going to tell your wife about, your affair. Well, I'm going to go to your wife and tell her about her husband cheating on her with coworkers from his work and so forth. Yeah, back and forth. And then finally,
You can't write this. You can't make this stuff up.
No, you
Okay.
can't. Like, you literally cannot. So they were just really toxic people. I don't understand.
I call them the devil, live
Yeah.
and well in the United States or
Yeah.
all over the world. Okay.
And
So you're running
anyways,
with the devils here. Okay.
so he told me, and then of course my husband blew up and wanted to go to this guy's wife and tell her, and I was like, absolutely not. I will have no part of it. I have to work with these people. If you jeopardize my job, I will sue you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was using every threat I possibly could. Well, I got him to not do that. Thank God he never went to, my coworker's wife and tell her, what was going on. I don't know if she even knows, but there's numerous ones that he's been with. So I have an idea she might know, and she might be like us. Who knows? Who knows? I've thought about talking to her, but then I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay away from those those people.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know what to say to that. And if you're supposed to meet her, you're going to be at a grocery store one day. You'd be like, oh, and oh, and oh.
Yeah.
It'll just happen. I believe those things happen. I hear stories about that all the time. I call them God winks.
Yeah.
Might happen. And if it does, you have ammo and you can chat.
Yep. So
okay, so then what happened?
So he's persistent on a divorce. So my parents, I know they had best interest at heart, told me, why don't you just move out? Because they were like, because he was like threatening, he wanted half of the house, he wanted this, that. My dad said, just give him the house. We'll give you money, move, So they did. They got me this cute little townhouse in this quiet little cul-de-sac apartment complex, and the girls still say, my kids still say it was the best summer ever.
Oh, they moved with you?
Yeah, my kids came with me.
Okay, so you said mom's moving out. What did you tell them?
Well, my husband didn't want, this was in November, bomb drop was in November, so he didn't want to say anything till after Christmas.
Okay.
Well, it just kept extending and extending and extending. Well, our oldest was due to go back to college like the 19th of January or something like that. And I'm like, honey, you have got to tell them. Like, so he, upon being mad at me, he went and approached them and told them. But he told the older ones separately from the younger ones. Okay. But I made him tell the older ones why. And the only reason people fought me on that. My parents didn't, but like my mother-in-law was pissed at me. Even the counselor that we went to suggested that you not do that. But I felt I needed to because his mistress had children the same age, going to the same schools and stuff as our kids. And I wanted them to hear from us rather than from rumor at school.
Absolutely. So, just a side note, I want everyone to know this because this is a very big complaint people have. It's like, I should have told my children. I shouldn't have told my children. If
Mhm.
you're going to tell your children that dad is leaving, the attachment is why.
Right.
If you're not going to tell them dad is leaving and dad's just confused. He's going to go live in the summer house for a little while. Well, we're fine. But if you're going to say, no, dad's moving out because dad wants to be separated from the family,
Yeah.
you have to say why.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to make up stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're already coming clean, go all the way. Don't go halfway. Tell the truth.
Yep.
So I don't know
agree.
how you were able to divide that between your girls because you tell the older one something and something. So that's very
didn't.
interesting.
I
What?
didn't. When we told the
He
younger
did.
ones, he told the younger ones, he just said that we weren't getting along. And at that point, I couldn't talk or without crying, so I didn't really
Yeah.
say much.
Yes,
But he
yes,
told them
yes.
that,
I'm
mom
sorry.
and dad aren't getting along. We're gonna separate. Blah 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 blah. And however, I did not realize that my older one, I should have, but I didn't. My older girls are very savage, very savage. And they would spout off and go off on him. And it didn't take very long. And they were 18 and 16 at the time. And like I said, our oldest was away in college. And Mackenzie, she was still at school with this mistress's kids. And it didn't take very long for our 12-year-old to pick up on it. And she
Of
came to me
course.
one night and she said, Mom, did dad cheat on you? And she was just in tears. So, yeah, damage control was very, I didn't think of it when I tried to keep it separate.
Mm.
So that was
Yeah.
rough. That was rough.
I know. I'm like, my heart.
But and then like the mistress's family is totally different than our family. Like I said, they're toxic people. My family we're not like that. We're not, and that they're them and their family are known to fight and be rough around the edges. And my family, we're just not like that.
Yeah.
So at one point, the mistress's daughter chased my daughter down the steps at school and out to her car. My daughter was leaving to go to the vocational school.
Which daughter?
It would be my second daughter, Mackenzie.
Okay.
I chased her down the steps at school, out to her car, yelling at her. And Mackenzie's like, what is this about? And she's like, well, so and so said in first period class you were talking shit about my mom. And Mackenzie's like, first of all, this stuff is so embarrassing. Why would I even say anything? Out loud in class, kind of thing. I don't know where the daughter got her information. I don't know what it was about. But she scared my daughter. My daughter was scared. And she, for 2 days, she didn't go to school. And I didn't know. I just thought she was sick. And
She didn't tell you.
she didn't tell me. However, my husband was one of them was one day of her not going to school, was the one who called her off, and he knew about it. He knew about it. The mistress's daughter, went home and told her what she did, and his excuse was that he didn't check on Mackenzie was because the mistress told him that her daughter, if once she gets mad, she's done. She promised her mom she wouldn't do it anymore, blah, 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 blah. And so he thought it was fine, that Mackenzie would be fine because it wouldn't happen again.
Isn't that amazing? So if you were to say, I know that everything's different now and it's been years, but if you were to say, if you had this same conversation with your husband today, would he be like, I never said that? That's horrific.
He has.
He said, I never said that?
On certain things. He's
Isn't
said,
that weird?
or he'll be like, I don't know why, I don't remember that, or I don't know why I said that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like yeah.
Mm-hmm. Devil's got his soul. Okay, so that's horrific. I'm so sorry. I just awful.
So,
It's the disease your husband brought in. When you have an
yes,
affair, this is what
yes,
comes with it. All this like
yes,
disgusting fly crap. Go ahead.
yes. And
So then what happened?
I got caught up in their web for a long time
Mm-hmm.
until a friend of mine said, "You're better than that. What is wrong with
Mm-hmm.
you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, they're right." You know what I mean? Like, I need to get
Mm-hmm.
out of this because it's just crazy. Um, the mistress, she had some legal issues. She had some uh, financial issues. She didn't pay her insurance, and her daughter got into a wreck with her car. So she had people trying to sue her. And then her daughter and her both lost their license because being uninsured. And then she also wasn't paying her rent, and she was getting evicted. So I think and this was like a year into after we separated. Like, I was in my townhouse for a year, and my husband was doing his own thing with this
Where
mistress
was he?
at home, and his
Oh,
same
that's
job.
right. So
And
you moved to the house. Yeah, sorry, I forgot
yeah,
for two
he
seconds.
kept
Okay.
he stayed at the house.
Oh
Um,
yeah, let's go back to that. So you told the daughters
oh,
after that we're moving to this townhome, they were
mhm.
happy?
Yeah, yeah. The townhome had a pool, and I had a really close friend of mine, like from childhood. He was going through the same issue, and our kids, of course, knew each other. We've known each other since we were kids. Our dads worked together, and like as kids, we grew up together.
Excellent.
Our parents had permanent campsites at a local campground, and we were out there every weekend together. So he spent a lot, him and his kids came and spent a lot of time with us, and the complex had a pool, and we did cookouts and swam all summer long. Like, that was our thing.
Awesome.
And
Must have been a great time. Where'd you go
Yeah.
after the end of the summer? Did you go home?
No. I stayed at the apartment till about, well, okay, when I was talking about the mistress and her issues,
Yeah.
about August, she had broke up with my husband. She had split.
How come?
Because I think her lies were catching up with her.
Mhm.
And my husband would even, like, at that point in time, my husband came to me, like, he came to me one night at my apartment. He called me up. He said, "Can I come over?" He goes, "I just need a hug." And I was like, okay. So let him in. I give him a hug. I'm like, "What is this about?" And he's like, "I don't know." He goes, "I'm so confused." So he was asking me, like, for instance, with the insurance, with her losing her insurance, or, not having her insurance, she told my husband that there was 5 cars on her policy, and her insurance provider dropped her. And I looked at him and I said, "Brian, how many cars do we have?" And he's like counting, and he's like, 6, sometimes 7, if you include the ATVs. And I'm like, "And have they ever dropped us for having too many cars?" "No, that's what I mean. I don't understand." Like,
He did
and
not
then,
say that.
and then,
Oh God.
and then
Sorry.
no, it's okay. But then I realized that he really was not in his right state of mind.
Mm-mm.
He had no comprehension, and he was asking me, like, wanting reassurance from me that, "Hey, is this crazy or what?" Um, Same thing with her being
He's
evicted.
coming out.
She
Okay.
gave him some sort of, I don't know, half story of why she was getting evicted, and he's like, "Why would they evict her for that?" And I'm like, "Because they didn't." They
Yeah.
are evicting her, but not for that reason, Brian.
Yeah. She's
I
lying.
had to explain to him, and like talk him down, like talk him like, this is making sense. But yet then the next day he'd be gone back to her, little games. She broke up with him, but she would call him every day, and she would had her claws in.
It's the
Um,
drama. That's
yeah,
what she wants. Okay.
yeah.
So that whole time that you were gone at the apartment, did he reach out or say how you were doing?
But
Like, what was your
every day,
conversations like?
every day,
He would call or text every day,
every day.
and you'd be kind to him and just treat him like
Yeah,
your friend.
yeah.
Good. Good. Amen.
Yeah, I didn't know about it at the time, and that was just my nature. That was just my thing. I was just like, okay,
Wonderful.
I don't understand why you're doing this, but okay, okay. And then he would turn around and accuse me of calling him, and I'm like, wait a minute, you called me. Like,
That's
so when they
funny.
talk about the MLC and, midlife crisis person, projecting, I see that. I totally see it. He
100%.
projected a lot more than that, but yeah, he would be like, well, why'd you call me? Well, wait a minute, you called me.
Oh my gosh.
um,
It's nuts though. It's absolutely
yeah,
nuts.
it's all crazy. It's
And you feel like you're going crazy,
yeah,
which is not the
yeah,
case.
yeah.
Okay, so what
Uh,
happens after April, August?
um, it was probably about November. Well, if you back up to May, my husband threatened suicide.
Oh, he
Um,
did?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
honey, I'm
It
so
was
sorry. How
it
did it
was
come up and what did he say?
it was pretty bad. He was drinking. I do not know where he went. I have an idea where he went after the fact, but at the moment I couldn't. I was in a panic and I couldn't think. Um, and I couldn't get a hold of her, the mistress. I couldn't like. He sent me this cryptic message. I had talked to him earlier that night, and he was drunk, and I didn't think much about it. About midnight, he sends me this cryptic message saying, and it was to the mistress. Um, but it was basically saying, that he was ending his life and that he was sorry and this, that, and the other. And I wasn't very nice. um, I I got accused of telling him to do it. I didn't. I said, Brian, if this is what I think it is, I hope you at least sent your kids a message similar to this. Apologize to your kids.
Hmm.
And then, and I turned off my phone and I rolled over, tried to go back to bed, and I was just like,
Horrified.
yeah. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you asshole. So I got out of bed. I went to the house because I figured that's probably where he was. That's where I was talking to him on the phone. Or he was at the house when I talked to him on the phone. His car was gone. I'm like, crap. So I went to a couple of places where I thought he might be. He wasn't there. So I went to the police station. I went
This
to the
is
police
midnight.
station midnight. It was like
Okay.
probably 1 o'clock by this time. By the time I went to the police station, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Could not get the mistress to contact me. I called his mom. She was trying to call the mistress. She was trying to call my husband, trying to call my husband's best friend, like trying to get. And the best friend didn't know where he was. And
Hmm.
so I just told him, I'm like, Brian, I said, I know you've been drinking. Do not get in your car. I have contacted the police. Please call. Please let me know you're okay. Well, then I went home and the police called me and said that they found him. He was safe. Although he did uh, decline mental, because I said if you can get him to a mental hospital, get him,
Yeah.
checked in, and he declined that, so they could not force him. Um, so I and he was with the mistress. So according to my
He was.
mother-in-law, he was with her. She found him or went to him. I don't know if it was really looking back. I don't know if it was really a threat or to get our attention.
Right.
But
That's what
anyways,
suicide is
so
sometimes. Okay.
move on to November,
Okay.
and he's suicidal again. I found him in
How
the
do you know?
bedroom, just in tears, and I said, "Do you need anything?" And he said, "I don't know." He goes, "I don't trust myself right now." So I just laid with him and held his hand, and just let him cry. Um, and I don't know if he was thinking it, but I got the feeling he was. That's what he was thinking of doing. And at that point, I was more afraid for him than of him. So I
Yeah,
stayed.
totally makes sense.
I stayed, because I did not want him to do anything, and my kids find him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Oh God.
so I stayed with him. We stayed, and when he came out of that, it took him a few days. When he came out of that mode, he was so remorseful and so apologetic, and oh, let's try again. Let's this, that, and the other. Okay, so whirlwind, like wonderful. We had wonderful holidays that year. Like what I mean. Like we were back
Yeah.
together in full force, and then boom, May comes. and I moved home, and our Mackenzie had graduated at that point in time. It was May of 2018, and he was kind of distant, kind of weird, like at her graduation party and graduation and stuff. So June comes, and I get second bomb drop. And second bomb drop was, I don't know what I want.
You what?
Yeah.
What was that? I missed that.
He said he did not know what he wanted.
And so now you're home.
Yeah, and by that time I had given up my apartment. I was back home. And I was like, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, I don't know what I want, and I don't know if I want to stay in the marriage or not. And I'm like, to me, instantly, I was like, okay, so who is it, Brian? Who is it now? Like, because I'm like, if you don't know what you want, there's got to be something pulling you away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course, denied. I'm not dumb. But he wanted, like I said, by August, he wouldn't leave. So I was like, what do I do? And that's when I found the hero spouse. It was that night that I called David and found out that, he wasn't going to move in with David. He was lying to me all along. And I...
so that was the second bomb drop.
That second bomb drop, yep. May of 2018 was second bomb drop.
So it's so interesting. The second bomb drop, when you found out he was lying about moving out, mm-hmm. yet he'd already had an affair and been with some other girl, but him lying the second time was like worse than the first time.
And I could not prove that there was anybody. And at that point in time, I was just tired. I didn't want to. Was
there another one? Was it the same girl?
Yeah, it was the same one. It was the same one.
So did you find out that he never left her?
He did leave her for like 6 months, or okay. I mean, they did not contact it. Supposedly, I don't know.
Okay.
But in that, I have to go back. In that time frame, 2018, in February of 2018, he was fired from his job.
No, why? Did they say why?
Beyond, the railroad has their own way of doing things. Yeah. If you haven't heard, the railroad is basically making record profit off of their employees' backs. This nation was facing a strike with railroad workers, and of course the companies just wanted to blame the workers, but it's
okay. So he lost his job.
He lost his job.
So I'm not familiar with dates at this point. So when does he lose his job? Is this before the second bomb drop?
Before second bomb drop. This is why I think second bomb drop happened.
That's why he probably went back to her.
In February, he lost his job. And he was okay. I thought, oh, good. It's a reset button for him. You know what I mean? Like, and we were okay. Yeah. We were okay financially. You know what I mean? Okay. And he had gotten another job.
He did.
So I was like, okay, we'll be fine.
You'll figure it out.
Not thinking that she would come back in,
So this time, does he move out again?
No, he
or does he move out? No, so he never left after that.
He never left after that, and I never left either, because I was like, at that point, I was tapped out. I didn't have any money. I owed my parents a ton of money between a lawyer and, the townhouse they had gotten me. I was still paying them back. I was strapped.
Did your parents want money back? I mean, come on.
Well,
I thought Dad said, I'll pay for it. I didn't realize you had to pay it back.
Well, I did pay it back. But,
okay.
Well, I mean, I had said, because they said, I think you should move. And I was just like, I really don't want to, and I really don't have the money to, well, we'll take care of it. You can pay us back later,
Oh, they did say that. I missed that. That's like the underlying thing.
It took me a good 5 years to pay him back. Okay. But I did pay him back.
Okay. Because you know when they pass away, you're just going to get that money anyway.
Oh, I know.
Like it's just one hand in the foot.
Okay, but so it makes me feel better.
I know, I get it. Some people are like that. You're a very nice person. So now take me back to, how do you stay in the house with him entertaining this other girl? How long did that last?
That went
till you finally kicked her to the curb.
That went on. I don't really know when it started. All I know is his behavior changed in May of 2018. Okay. And by September of 2018, like I said, in that big fight in August, and I wanted to get rid of him because he kept threatening to leave, something happened in September of 2018. He was down at his mom's, about 2 hours away from where we live, and he had called me on his way home, and he was in a manic state. Like I didn't even recognize his voice, but he was like, and luckily I had just watched Laurie Bio's Chaos Kids.
Love that guy. Yes.
Yeah.
Familiar with that. Okay, anyways. Just for everyone, I always like to pause and talk about what that is. So the Chaos Kid is written by Laurie Bio. Came around after I had this whole thing, and he's all about how a child that you're raising now, if there's any chaos that doesn't get resolved by the time he's 40 or 50, he relives that part of him to solve something or goes back to fix it, or there's a whole bunch of studies on it. But it's basically saying if your adult man husband had any type of chaos between 2 and 12, may I say 15, there will be trauma later that they have to solve. I mean, even like I know people from the Catholic Church who have been abused and they've done nothing. They hid it. All this money's available. And they're like, no, didn't happen to me. And then 50 years old, they're like, and then all hell goes to loose and you find out they were abused and they just never talked about it. And it's shameful, which is horrific. But anyway, okay, so that's what Laurie talks about, which is amazing.
Yes. So I had been researching. Like I said, I found the hero spouse the night that we had that fight, and I found out from David he wasn't moving. So
yes, Larry.
So the hero spouse kind of touches on that. Touches
the
on
whole midlife
Not
crisis.
As in depth as Laurie Bio's, but anyways, found Laurie Bio. I watched the video, the Chaos Kids. Anyways, he calls me. It was like Labor Day weekend. He's coming home from his mom's. He calls me and like just unloads on me. I hate you. I don't know why I married you. I never wanted to marry you. Blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there and listened. And I was like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't know what to say, Brian. And he's like, I don't understand. I don't know how to get you to understand, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, I just sat there and I took it.
And you listened.
So the next day I go to work. And I get off of work, and I didn't even make it out to my car. I'm still walking through the parking lot to my car, and he calls me, and like my heart is just racing. I was like, God, what does he want now? And so I answered the phone, and he acted like there was nothing wrong, not a thing wrong. And he does not recall that conversation.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened after that?
He calls me, and it was actually kind of funny because Mackenzie was a freshman in college. She had her first year away. And she was my oldest daughter. She was studying abroad in Prague. And so they were going to meet up at the Christmas break at their friends from Denmark. Another foreign exchange student that went to school with my oldest daughter at our hometown. So she had bought this ticket for Denmark to meet Kirsten in Denmark, and they called and canceled her flight. So she had to call this number to reschedule a flight. So she calls the international. It wasn't a 1-800 number. It was an international number at like $3 and some odd cents, and she was on the phone with them for like an hour and 20 minutes.
God. Okay.
And so he called me thinking it was funny, even though it was on his bill. He called me thinking it was funny. And that was like an icebreaker. And he was normal from like that point on. Not normal, but the monstering had subsided.
Right. So And did you see it again after that? Like
Oh,
pieces of it, or
I
was it just kind
saw
of done?
it. I saw it from time to time. The monster would pop out, but not like it had been. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I like at one point in time, like was doing like the just being nice, being kind, being because for me, like I didn't know if I wanted to stand for my marriage, but I knew I had to do something to get my children's father back, you know, because I did not like, and I knew like for our future, like we have 4 daughters, we're gonna have graduations, we're gonna have weddings,
Weddings,
we're
lots
going
of
to have
weddings.
grandkids that we have to share. I've
Yeah.
got to gain his trust and his friendship at least to survive our
Yep.
future life.
Future. Mm-hmm.
And
That's right.
um so that was my goal when I
Good.
stood.
Okay.
um
So because I get these questions, I mean, it's a bummer you never found me, but I don't know if I was fully engaged in doing lots of people. I was very quiet. But I think it's interesting when you're talking about how like that monster is. If people say, but how do I know when it's over? It's like you'll know. You'll know. They get to a certain point and they're just kind of done, and the real them comes out. And you can talk about the past with them, and they're going to be like, I would never say those things to you. I would never do that. And you're just like, I would never forget that you did those things to me. And they're completely baffled that they would never say those things. I think my husband told me this would be so much easier if you just died. It wasn't that calmly, it was very angrily. And I was like, I
yes,
didn't have anything to say to that, but I would, I will never forget him saying that to me. I know
I
where we
also
were. I know what his face looks like. He says he would never say that to me. Oh, you just made that up. I would never say that. And it's
right.
like, oh my gosh,
I can
it's the most
totally relate to
baffling
that.
world.
It would have been easier
Crazy,
just to
right?
say goodbye than
Mm-hmm.
to live with it.
Right.
But
Get hit by a truck.
anyway, so the monster did subside, but like I said, it would peep up every now and then. For the most part, he was gaining, like, for the longest time, my husband would not do anything with me or the kids. We would go places, do things, did not want to participate. If he did participate, he was an asshole. It's the only way I can describe it. Like, he could not
Yeah.
behave, he was like a little child could not behave themselves,
How many years
that
did that
a little
last?
child that needed a nap. And that
Yeah.
lasted before bomb drops.
Okay.
That lasted till about 2019, somewhere in
Okay.
there. All that subsided, and things were kind of normal. I But he would go distant. Like, he would be all in the game with us, and then he'd go distant. Um, I I went through a lot, like financially, because he had lost his job. So I had to pick up health insurance because he's our main health care provider,
Mm-hmm.
or his employer provides our health care. So I had to pick it up with my work, and that was not cheap. So it was coming out of my pay, affecting other bills I was paying. And he had split all the bills, like when we had separated, and when we got back together, he decided that that's the way it should stay. Although I was not getting child support to pay I was relying on child support to pay some of those bills. Um, so I had to do a debt consolidation. Took a
Okay.
real big hit on my credit score, but I took out the debt consolidation. They quoted me 3 years to pay it off, and I paid it off in 2.5. But I worked my normal full-time job. Then I worked a part-time job, and then sometimes a third job to make,
Amen, sister.
pay that off.
Yeah.
Um,
Just
I
to get it
paid
done. Good
I
job.
paid my or I did a lot of things with my kids, like my younger kids and we would meet the older kids for dinner, and things like that. I took
Worth
my
every
kids
penny.
I took my kids on vacation for the first time by myself. Never have I ever done that. The furthest I ever drove with my kids was a 4-hour trip to Indiana every once in a while to visit my dad when he lived there. But I didn't travel with my kids until then.
Hmm.
I just lived life for me and my kids the whole time between 2018.
Yeah,
Um,
because that's all you can do.
yep, yep. And then 2021. I'm working at my second job at this. I work at a store. I'm working at the store, and this person approaches me and asks me if I'm married to Brian Holman. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I just want to inform you that his affair partner and him, there's still something going on. So I'm like,
what?
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, I kind of had an idea, but I wasn't about to prove it. And like I said, when he was all in the game, but then he would go distant, like I knew something, there could have been somebody or something was pulling him distant.
This is in 2021.
21. Yes.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened?
April 2021. So I didn't know what to do. I was like, okay, here's my proof, because with him and the mistress, you always had to have proof, that there was an affair or it didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's their crazy world,
Yep.
So I was not about to play the game of proving,
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, that's your problem, not mine. He's here. He's with me. Sorry. You know what I mean? Like, if he goes.
So you didn't do anything. You heard this information and you did nothing.
Well, I did. I told him, I'm like, I was informed that there's still something going on between you and so-and-so. And of course he denies. Well, I've talked to her. Okay. And he's like, and then the monster came. The monster was back full force. Constant. And I provoked a little bit of that. I told him, I was like, if she's there, I'm done, and that woke up the monster. I said, I can't exist with her anymore, being in your life. I said, and at that point I had paid off that debt consolidation. And like I said, I took my kids on vacation by myself, first time ever. I bought a car in my name. Never have I owned a car in my name. It's always had his name or my parents' name with
That's
my
awesome.
loan. I did everything for me. And actually the car incident, he had been, like I said, I was working 3 jobs paying off this debt that he thought that I was responsible for. And meanwhile, he's buying all kinds of toys, and he bought a flamethrower, and that sent me over the edge. I'm like, what the hell do you need a flamethrower for? Like, you know what I mean? I even asked the guys.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like a machine that throws flames. My husband's
Because why?
Bragging rights is the only thing I can think of.
What is it?
So,
what is it?
Bragging rights. To say he has one, you know what I mean? But
okay. Bragging rights.
Bragging rights, yeah.
What do you do with it?
So I was, that like instantly irked me to no end. And I was like, if he has money to spend on toys like that, then he can make a couple of my car payments, because it was actually in his name, but I was still making the payments. So when the bank contacted him saying, hey, you're like 2 months behind because I stopped paying. And he's like, well, somebody isn't paying her car payment. And I was like, well, somebody's been buying toys. So I figure if you have enough money to buy toys, you can help me out with some of my bills, And he's like, well, maybe I'll just take those keys away. Boom. The next day, Amy went and bought a car of her own. And then, of course, when I come home with the car, he says, I wasn't going to take your keys.
Wow. Okay, so wait. So what happened with this 2001 name of the...
Okay, so April... and so, of course, he's denying it. I message her. I'm like, when do you want the movers to move his shit in? Oh, he's somebody from my past, blah, 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 blah. And I will
You text Horseface and you say to her, when do you want me to move my husband's stuff in your house?
When would be a good date for the movers to show up with his shit?
Oh, God, I love it. Okay.
So,
and she says, no,
she's like, he's from my past. I don't have any, and I'll admit, throughout the years, when I thought there was something, but like I said, couldn't prove it, I would poke the bear. I would be like,
okay,
hey,
so what happened? I'm dying. Tell me.
I even sent her the hero spouse stuff.
Okay, but what happened?
So anyway, so the monster is out. He threatens to leave. I'm like, I can't stop you. I can't make you stay. I can't make you go. There's the door. It's on you.
Yeah.
However, I am not going to live with her anymore. In my life.
Yeah.
And so he goes and decides he wants to get an apartment. Oh, okay. You know how he got fired from his job in 2018? He did get his job back in 2020.
Okay, cool.
That's how long it takes the union to get their jobs.
Yeah. Okay, so
And
we're
he
gonna have
was
to end
not
soon. Who is the other girl? Like, what happened in 21?
okay. So the other girl is the same woman, but she so he goes to work or monsters at me, threatens to move out, tells me he got this house, and I said, you don't have to move, just get rid of her and you can stay. That's all, as simple as that. And so then later on that night he texts me, he's like, I am so sorry. And then he was like, it was boohoo, I don't know, I don't fit in, I feel like I have to leave you guys, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that's on you. I can't stop it. So he uh goes and finds a house, tells her he's got a house, but then this was on a Friday. He got called out Saturday on a train. Sunday something happened in the yard, and he lost his job again. And so he comes home Monday morning and tells me he lost his job, which I have like this sinking feeling like, oh my God, here we go again. Like, you know what I mean? And so I'm thinking that he's not getting this apartment because he tells me Friday night that he's sorry and that he doesn't think he's going to take this place, blah, 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 blah. I even had the text I could show her if she really wanted to see it. But he told her he gave up the apartment because he lost his job. Well, luckily, it was just he had to sign a 30-day waiver. He got a 30-day punishment, and he got to go back to his job. And but anyways, in that 30 days time, my job had done a layoff and so I was laid off. And he goes, oh, good, we can go go to the cabin or go here or there. And I'm like, okay, like he was making plans. I'm like, fine, that's perfect. And about 2 weeks into that, he calls me up. He was working on his truck over at his friend's garage. And he calls me up and he said, be ready. He goes, I'm going to pick you up. We need to talk. And I was like, talk? Like instantly, like my heart's throbbing. I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Like, you know what I mean? And so he picks me up and he goes, I don't know what you're going to do with me. He goes, and he just like confessed everything he'd been doing in the last 3 years with her and
Oh,
this.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was honest.
Told
Okay.
me everything that was going on. And he said, I go, well, why are you telling me this? Like, are you done with her? He goes, well, yeah. He goes, he said that, okay. Earlier that day, he had called me and he said, what do you want for Mother's Day? Because it was the Thursday before Mother's Day weekend. What do you want for Mother's Day? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not picky. I'm not anything. Whatever you and the kids decide to get me, I will be happy with. Like, if I really didn't want a gift, but whatever. And
That's nice.
so he hangs up, and then, like I said, later on he calls and says, I'm coming to pick you up. So, and then he spills the beans about everything. And I guess he had bought her a Mother's Day gift and went to take it to her. And her ex-husband's car was in the driveway. Well, I shouldn't say it was a gift. It was a Visa card to fix her car. She was asking for money to fix her car, to pay to fix her car. Went to take it to her, and the ex-husband was there. And as he's driving by, seeing the ex-husband's car there, she's texting him saying, no, never mind, I got it covered.
He told you all this.
He told me everything about it.
Okay.
Just he he and every time the mistress's ex-husband would get in a relationship with another woman, she would lose her mind. And I witnessed it, like, twice in the first year and a half that we were separated, I was like, what is she having a fit about? She's divorced from him. Why does she care if he's with this woman or whatever, you know? And he said that this last time that when he told me about it, her ex-husband was in a relationship and she was trying to get him back away from this other woman. And he said, I didn't think she would do it this time. And I was like, well, what did you mean? What did you think we were, Brian? Like, why blame her when you were doing the same thing with me? You know? Not
Did
that
he respond?
Huh?
Did he have a response?
He just, like, you know, it took him a while to comprehend it. But he was, like, in a state of shock. Like, he was surprised that she did it, you know. He was kind of scared that she did it. Like I don't know if it was like him actually coming. I'm thinking it was him actually coming out of the tunnel because he was the way he was behaving. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, and oh my gosh, I have to do that, and we have to fix this, and like he wanted to fix everything all at one time. And I was like, whoa, slow down, you can't. You know what I mean? Like you can't. You're on a good start. I mean, you know, but we can't fix everything right away. So,
but the bottom line is he's away from her, and that's it. Because that, like, I hope everyone's taking these lessons of if you open the door to evil and, you know, walking away and doing harmful things that hurt other people, it becomes a constant thing, and it's like a parasite, and it just starts spreading.
Yep.
And it's horrific. Okay, so we've kind of gone over our time that I've allotted for this show, but that's okay. We're okay.
I have kind of a long, twisted story.
That's
not even the half of it.
It's not? Oh my God.
Half of it. If I could tell
what are we missing?
Oh, tons of stuff. all of the things that they did. That's what I want to tell people, like, that are going through this. Like, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. It, you know, there's no explanation to it, but know that you're not alone. You know, my husband did this, and this.
Yeah. Like, but what's the point? Why should, like, I have so many girls that call me and say, I just want to give up. This is so hard. And I've been doing this for 2 months. This is so hard. And I'm
laugh at that too. I'm like,
really?
How could you do it for 4.5 years? When I tell them 4.5 years, and they're like, how could you do that? I'm like, you just live. You live. You live.
Right.
Like I said,
right?
I paid off my bills. I think I scared him when I was paying, because I was paying off my bills. I bought the car in my name. I was taking the kids on vacation. I had at that point in time gotten a nice sum of money from my grandparents' estate. And I was talking about buying a house or remodeling our house. And I think that scared him. Like, he was like, oh my God, she's serious. She's going to leave. Like, I think that helped bring him out of the tunnel. I don't know.
Yes.
Sure.
And that does. But when a woman starts living her life the way she wants to live, with or without him, not worried about the return, that's suddenly when they start paying attention. And I am so glad you said that, because that's the truth.
And I want people
to the
beginning of it all, like that sinking feeling in your stomach and that's being scared. Don't, because you'll look back.
Power through it.
I look back now and I was like, why was I so stupid? Why did I let him boss me around? Like, and you know, like, I can almost laugh at the shenanigans that they pulled. You know what I mean? Like, it's like so weird and bizarre. And it's like, and then why did I let that control my life back then? Like, it was detrimental. You know, and I hear all these stories and see all these women that are saying the same thing, like, oh, but I can't do that because, no, yes, you can, honey, you can. It's fine.
I know. So
I just want to take all that hurt and that empty, you know, feeling in their stomach and just take it away from that for them, because it's a liberating feeling.
It ends. And I always tell people, when are they coming home? What, like, is it going to be 2 years from now? Let's put that date on the calendar, on your mirror, because from now till then, leave him alone. Just live your life. You're going to be just fine. And they're like, but what if he doesn't come home? It's like, why are you thinking about that? Yeah, he will.
Yep. And I even to this day, I was like, you know, if things don't work out between us, not that, I mean, things are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but if things don't work out between us, I know I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Mm-hmm. And when you get to that spot, they come around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, you've been just a dear. I'm so glad, Lisa, who's our executive producer. So if anyone has a story, please get a hold of her. I'm so glad she asked you to join us today. So I think you have an amazing story, and my listeners will be so grateful to have you in their ears, or if they're watching this on YouTube, in their faces. Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much, Aime.
You're
Aime
welcome.
without a last name. And yeah, so we'll talk to you soon. I'm sure. Stay in touch. You have my number. And,
Will do.
let me know how life goes as things go on.
Sure.
Let me know about all those weddings as they come.
Yeah.
All right, love.
Yeah.
Take care. Thank you again.
You too. Bye-bye.
Amazing. I love a success story, but the success story doesn't come without a lot of pains in the asses. So don't think for 1 minute that this story can't be your life, because it can. Use me. Come to my website, thewifeexpert.com. I am here to help you. If you know anyone who has a story like hers or someone who's struggling, feel free to ask them to come find me. And I go to thewifeexpert.com, as well as just reach out to me, email me, text me. Let me know if someone else has a story, because I want to share these stories so people have a lot of hope. Have hope. Share this. And the other thing to think about is we learned a lot about the railroad today, didn't we? I thought that was hilarious. I also like to learn a lot about people, and I'm a never-ending person who asks questions. I love questions because there's so much you can find out about people. So if you meet someone who's older and they've already been married or divorced and they have a story, and you're in line at Ralph's or Target, ask them. Get their story. Shoot me an email. Tell me their story. Maybe I'll bring them on and interview them. Everyone has a story. A lot of stories about marriage and love. I want to hear them. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.